God, look at how sexy XC dashes are.
You're very happy with yourself, aren't you?
Yeah. All right, Michael, what are we doing today?
All right, we are back on the XE, just to something different. Drag challenge is drastically approaching and we're running out of weeks to get this done. I think we're 4 or 5 weeks out from when we need to have this finished now. Because to complicate this even further, we're also going to Hard Ass 1000, which is the week before, which means that we are actually one less of a week than we would have been if we had just been going straight to drag challenge. We're gonna try to do 2 weeks of drag racing. It's gonna be crazy. Anyway, so Nathan has done a lot of work on the XE off camera, obviously, as he's been working late nights. And today we're going to try and get some more bulk items done in this thing. One of those main things being getting the transmission back in, because it is back from its health checkup. And we're going to try and also mount up the rest of the hardware that we're working with. And we're going to try and start looking at the wiring, because we've had a delivery from Tiperformance with a bunch of stuff that we've been needing to get stuck into that sort of thing. So I'm going to hand it over to Nathan to talk to us about what he's done in the meantime. All right, Nathan, what have you done?
Okay, so what I've done is I went and chased down a Hackshop power steering pump. As you know, we love using these. I bracketed off the bumper iron as well. I've ran all the lines. This is pretty much ready to go. We've just got to pretty much wire it up and I want to P-clip this up. But anyways, it's the hard part of mounted and ran is done.
It's roughed in, yeah.
So the steering box is now in as well. I did get that rebuilt. The dude did a killer job, if you can zoom in there. He made it look factory.
Awesome.
Brakes are finished as well up here. So the lines are back in. I put a brand new master cylinder on it, because why not? So the brakes are done up here. So now, like, engine bay is back together and it's now just like getting this thing running now. I pulled everything out of the Fairlane. As you can see, it looks like a car that sits at Jolly's Auto Parts. Pulled the seats out. These seats suck to get out because the thingy that holds the bolt head just lifts up and it just spins.
Oh, really?
So you've got to do like a two-handed ordeal. You've got to like get the vice grips on the head of it and then like undo it. So it sucks. But anyway, so the shifter, we're using the one out of the Fairlane because the ratcheting shifter with the 4-speed is just annoying.
It's too annoying. Yeah. There's too many gears.
We're going to use that one. Unfortunately, putting a drop box in this thing will not achieve anything because the factory surround doesn't fit around the shifter and it won't go into first or park because it's going to smash the console and I'm not cutting up the console. So it's going to stick out like that. I don't care. It looks cool. So what I did pick up though is I picked up my auto. DTM down in Geelong did a freshen up for me and they were quite impressed with how it looked. It just had like one minor issue where he said it's like a heat thing, it's walked the bush out, and I said yeah, it got hot on the hard ass because the trans fan wasn't working. So he did a repair on it, and other than that, he said clutches, bands, everything looks good. He said the converter doesn't need to be flushed out because it's fine. So this is ready to go back in the car. They cleaned it up for me. They put a new gear position sensor on it because it was jumping out of first and second. He said they play up. Other than that, it's ready to go in, and now we can see the issues with the engine on what it's going to hit.
Yeah,
because this is going to get our angle correct.
This is what we've been waiting for, to find out what's happening with this sump and what we're going to do about it contacting the Crossmember.
Yes.
So we need to know where this is going to put the engine, because this is going to give us the angle to dangle.
Yeah. So once we slap this in, we can put the starter back in as well, and then we're going to start closing up this big engine bay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. I'm pretty happy with the auto. It's done really well. I told them it's done 3 drag challenges, Optima, and they were quite impressed with how this auto's gone. So if you want to get your BTR built, just go to DTM.
Yeah, they know what they're doing, and like this is a testament. The BTRs don't get a lot of love in the transmission world because, well, there's not a lot of reasons to love them, except for the fact that when they're built right, they actually do work quite well. All right, let's see how many things we contact. Cool, sleeves are getting rolled up. Normally we would watch the fluid pump out of the transmission, but we can't do that because they've drained all the fluid out. The amount of times we've pulled this gearbox out, you reckon I'd know this measurement off by heart. I'm pretty sure it's 19 though, so I think we're good to go. Can't wait for that when I listen to this. daisy. No, it's not going to fit at all.
What?
This is way too wide. Look, come stand back here.
So it is.
That's a problem. How do they fit them in XGs? Must be different. The floor.
Yeah.
Now, we have a problem. The gearbox is not going to fit. You can see these tabs here on the side, or where the original mounts were, they're going to completely hit the gearbox. The only way to fix that would be to cut them off. And our crossmember is way too far back. Like, way up there, Morty. Way too far back. So we need to do some thinking, because something's not right here. This is so far off. We thought that was going to bolt in. That's what we'd heard, but obviously it's not the case. So it looks like we're going to have to chop this out to get that to line up, or make a new mount, new crossmember, which is kind of frustrating, but I mean, we can build it across here, across the frame rail, I guess. Okay, so we've done some mad researching to find out what we need to do. We think we've come up with a solution. We'll talk about that when we've solved it.
Yeah, but we're not looking at this today. We're going to come back to this another night once we get the parts. So we're going to pull the trans back out and we're going to move on with shit that we can do. We need to mount the HALTECH, we need to mount the dash.
Just open up our box of goodies and get into it, eh?
Yeah, let's have a look at what's in there.
Alright, so we need to look at what we do have, and what we do have is we have a delivery from Tiperformance. We have a bunch of hose which we need to use for our fuel. That means Nathan can start running fuel lines. We got a surge tank, which is the same one as what we're running in the Fairlane. Fuel filters, fuel pumps, overflow reservoir for the radiator. Bunch of fittings and stuff, but importantly what we do have, and what we're probably going to spend most of the day looking at today, is we have a wiring loom. So this is a HALTECH premium wiring loom. If you didn't know, Tiperformance stock all the HALTECH gear. It's where we got all our stuff from, and they have the entire range, which is really useful when you're doing this sort of stuff, because this is really handy to have. So rather than trying to pull the mangled wiring loom out of the Fairlane, which has been chopped up and hacked over many years and evolutions of the Fairlane, we decided to just start fresh with a clean wiring loom, because the idea is this should be completely standalone. In the Fairlane, the way that this was originally wired up, because the Fairlane had so many more things in it and everything ran through the original factory ECU, we piggybacked the HALTECH into the standard ECU, which meant all the wiring got really messy. With the XE, we don't need to do that. It can be completely standalone, which means it gives us the opportunity to start fresh with a brand new wiring loom. I have not used a premium wiring loom before, and to be honest, I don't even know what's in here, except for the fact that I knew that it came with a nice fuse box and everything. So we should be able to basically have everything wired up through this, and it'll look pretty neat. You can also get factory terminals, like these are made for LS coils, because we're going to have to make a new wiring loom for the coil packs, which are all LS in this case. So that's handy. And a bunch of Deutsch plugs, and most importantly, fuel for us. Tiperformance lollies. There's heaps here, heaps to go through, bulkhead terminals as well too, big grommets. There's a lot of things that need to be wired up, so this is probably going to be my home for the next week. I'm going to set up on this table everything I need to start wiring this thing. We're probably going to start laying the loom out, figure out where we're going to make our hole through the firewall now, and where we're going to mount the ECU. So this is the ECU, as you can see, it's a little 750. It's really tiny, you forget how tiny these things are. So we're going to see if we can mount this in the kick panel, yeah?
Yes.
And then we can figure out where our wire is going to run.
Yep.
Woo! This needs to go pop, 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 pop. God, look at the glorious amount of room I'm thinking is behind that kick panel. I'm hoping there is. Now we're going to play what's behind door number 1. Oh, this shit screws jammed up. Oh. Don't need you to go fast. Right. That was easy. HALTECH. I like the positioning.
I think it's going to fit. It's probably better off like that though. I think it will clear though. Because like if you see where the carpet is flared up.
Yeah, it'll probably push it out a little bit, but not a great deal.
So we've come up with a plan.
We just
what are we doing?
We can't help ourselves. We can't go away from hacking up glove boxes. We just love it. Who needs glove boxes? Who wears gloves these days, you know, when they're driving? It just doesn't happen anymore. I do when I get a bit sweaty on the gear shifter on HQ, but anyway, that's another story. So we were looking at mounting the ECU in here. We were sort of planning, we're heading that way. Nathan cut out all the insulation. Now we're going to call that weight saving. So that was going to go in there. But then we realized, so this HALTECH premium ECU loom comes with a fuse box. And the advantage of this fuse box, I'm looking at the diagram now, it makes life so much easier than trying to make your own fuse box like I did in the Fairlane originally when we went with the basic loom back in the day. Because the advantage of this is now, instead of having to make my own fuse box and then figure out where that fuse, all that power then had to go into the ECU and all the relevant places like fuel pumps and relays for the fans and such. Now we just run power, which is like these big thick red wires here, to the fuse box, and it distributes it through the relay exactly where it needs to go. Just, it simplifies things. So I definitely see the value already in getting a premium kit because you come with this. The disadvantage is we need to find somewhere for this to go. Now, it doesn't look like there's a lot of room, like you can't separate this and take it too far away from the ECU plug because there's only a few wires, but it's enough where they run straight back into here and go up to there. We could extend that, yeah, if you really want to, you could extend it and put this wherever you want, but we're not going to because we just came up with the solution on how we're going to do this to make it nice and easy. I said to Nathan, how much do we want a glove box? What do you keep in there? And turns out all he keeps in there is his logbook and an air freshener. That's all he keeps in his glove box. That's the entirety of his contents. So we thought, why don't we just like mount it in the glove box like the Fairlane was done. If you ever saw the Fairlane, it used to actually just sit in the glove box. You drop the glove box and the ECU would come down with it. And then we're like, Nathan goes, hang on a minute, why don't we just cut the arse end out of this glove box here, we'll cut it out and we'll make a plate so that we can mount our ECU right up in there, and then our fuse box can go right up in there.
Sexy.
Like, that just works so well. It would be clean, it would be nice, everything would be accessible and nice and neat to get to. So we really like the sound of that. So what Nathan's going to do now is he's going to cut up yet again another glove box. Probably going to cut the...
I'm not going to cut that up yet. I'm just going to mount. I'll just plate it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't cut the glove box. I got to make sure I got another glove box first.
Yeah. So he's... Well, it's going to happen one way or another.
Yeah, I know. But maybe we just run no glove box cover. You just get to stare at the sexiness. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. That's going to take us to then figuring out our wiring loom. I think what we should do now before we go ahead and get you on that is we need to cut the hole for this. So then while you're making that plate and making this all look pretty on this side, I can actually start sorting out the wiring on that side.
All right.
So what do we need? Engine loom, fuel pump loom, Astra pump, dash loom, exhaust cutout loom, thermofan loom, data loom. That's as much as I can think of on this loom right now. The time has come. What are we going to do?
We're going to drill a hole in my holeless car. It is what it is. You make sacrifices when you want to go fast.
So we think we've found the location of where we want to put it. It's a bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is comfortable. Oh yeah.
Do you know where you're going? Here, take the light. Oh God. He's just going for it. He's really going for it here. Alright, let's go up and have a look at the damage.
Yeah.
Alright, that's our hole. These beautiful firewall, no more.
Looks good. I'll get the die grinder on it and just clean it up.
Yeah.
And then we'll see if the grommy fits.
It's that rotary.
It's on idle. Imagine just working away, that's sitting there. What's that noise?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my my die grinder just idling. Oh, okay.
Just warm it up.
That's probably where I start.
So
Oh yeah.
That's our grommet. Perfectly angled so all the water that comes off the tyres go straight in. That looks good. So now that we have that, Nathan can then get inside there, start mounting, making his plate up, and I'm going to start on this side, distributing wiring where it needs to go, and start making a loom essentially. If I can get the wiring loom to the engine basically made today, I'll be really, really happy. So let's get going.
Let's do it. All right. I'm happier now.
Yep, so feed all them through for me. Feed it through so it doesn't scratch. Oh, look at all this. Is this the best install we've done?
100%.
Not even finished yet, I reckon it is.
Plate behind it.
You know how people, how they put the polishing swirls in it?
Yeah.
Maybe I should do that.
Yeah, because we've got heaps of time, We have so much time for DC, let's just do all the wasted things.
All right, I got it.
Okay, well now the fun really begins, because now that we have our wiring loom through, what it means is I can actually start distributing these wires like I spoke about before. Now the premium harness comes with pretty much labels on all the wiring, so I can do it pretty much off this, but also I'll be going back to our wiring diagram. But one of the main reasons why I wanted to get this wiring harness to this stage right here is because of this right here. I'll show you. This right here is the engine wiring harness that we had on the Fairlane. It is basically a concoction of what was the original harness from Ford, as well as a few extra things that we added in when we did the HALTECH conversion on this in the first place. Originally I was going to remake this whole loom, but then we looked at it, it's actually in pretty good condition, there's not much wrong with it.
It's neat and hidden as well.
It's neat, it's hidden, it is basically already got all our plugs on it, and rather than trying to replace all the plugs individually and source them all, we're just going to reuse it because it's already ran to the extremities of where it needs to go. So what that means is now I'm going to open up this loom. I'm going to take out a few things that we're not going to use anymore, like this factory all pressure switch. We don't need that anymore. That only ran to the ECU in the car to keep the ECU happy. Back when it was piggybacking, no longer required. We'll get rid of that. There's a few other wiring harnesses that I'm going to run through this as well too. But the point is, what I'm going to do is cut these plugs off here, which are factory Ford plugs. I'm going to put on my own Deutsch connector plugs here, and then I'm going to run all the wires here that would essentially runs these terminals. I'm going to cut short here and put a Deutsch connector, and then we can plug straight into this. It means that the engine wiring harness will be pretty much standalone, and if we have to pull the engine out for any reason, rather than pulling out all the sensors and the wiring and stuff like that, we just disconnect it from what should be maybe 2 or 3 plugs here, and this can come out with the engine. Just like when we pull the engine out of that car, the harness came with it.
And the good thing is, because this is now going to be standalone coming out the firewall, in the future, this harness part can be like remade fully.
Yeah.
Or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if I wanted to remake this in the future for whatever reason there's an issue, I can just pull this out individually and remake it all. So
yeah.
That's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to start to pull this apart, strip it, get it ready, find out what wires need to go into this wiring harness, and basically start cutting and shutting.
Looks killer. God, look at how sexy XE dashes are. Man, Ford built a good car in the 80s.
That was quick. You smashed that out in no time.
Yeah, you can't nutsert plastic, so it's just screwed into the plastic, and then I can't nutsert the aluminium because it's flush against the plastic, so it's all just screwed in. Like, it's all just tech screwed in. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
It looks good. Man, I would run no glove box if it wasn't a sleeper. So that means you're all good?
Yeah, that means I've just about separated all the wiring. So like as in this stuff I know I need to pull back through the cabin. All this stuff here is what's going to go into this loom here. Coil triggers and power there. This is not used. And then this stuff is like power to basically power the system. So I've got to figure out where I'm going to put all that. We're just sorting out now where we want to put our bulkheads, because that depends on where I'm running this. If it's inside, then this goes back in the cabin with that.
I reckon we'll just put the bulkhead on the kick panel.
So what I am going to do is I'll just notch out this little bit of plastic for this wiring, just to sit up through there, because we actually physically can't, unless Michael wants to de-pin it all, which I don't want him to, it's a waste of time. I will just notch out that little bit of plastic there. All right, so what I'm going to do, I want to fit the bulkhead here. I'd much rather not have a bulkhead in the engine bay and rather run everything in here. So I can actually get to the back of this, so I can run the bulkhead there. The battery cable will run through all these plastics under these sill panels, which isn't an issue at the moment, but I'll put the bulkhead there. That way Michael can run his main power off there. And then there's my shifter plate that I started and didn't finish. And the shifter, unfortunately, I'm going to let a lot of people down, but it's not getting drop boxed. It's just going to sit up like that. Unfortunately, this shifter, because me and Michael, we're both stubborn, we don't want a ratchet shifter, it smashes the console, so it's just going to be plated, mounted like that. This shifter just works perfect with the BTR, so we're going to keep this. And I've already sourced a guy that's going to hopefully 3D print me a nice cover that will kind of look factory. So, moving on.
All right, so this is the original accelerator cable out of the Fairlane, and what I've done is I've modified everything so then it'll work on this pedal. So the way the pedal works on the old setup, the accelerator cable comes in with this like square clip thing, it clips into this and then it goes to this.
Is this the Fairlane pedal?
This is the Fairlane pedal.
Yeah.
So what I've done, this pedal is completely different. So I've made this plate, this plate goes into like 2 studs in the firewall, and then there's a hole. I've square chamfered it out so then this will clip in. And then the hole was too big on this, so I've welded the hole up, re-drilled the hole to fit this coupling, and it all works.
So is this the first thing that's going to talk to
The engine.
the engine?
But, like, I don't know the distance from where it sits, so the pedal might sit high, the pedal might sit low. I don't know yet. I think there's adjustment up there, but I don't know if that's going to affect down here. I'm going to pull this apart now, paint it, because screw crawling under that dash anymore. I'm so done.
Yeah.
I'm ready to just finish this pedal. It works. We're good. So
It's been a day.
if I get this working today, I'll be really happy. So let's paint it, put it in.
How'd you go?
All done.
Hey, we have something that works. Very nice. And does the pedal feel the right height and everything?
Yeah, it's perfect.
So if you tried to do a skid, how's it feel?
Oh!
Yeah.
I don't think it sounds like that, but I gotta tighten everything up. It's all loose still, but
Well, that's good. That's one less thing that we need to worry about then. You're very happy with yourself, aren't you?
yeah, means we have control over it now. So.
We are winning. We will beat you, XE.
All right, that's good. We're looking good.
So another tip that you can use too when you're doing wiring and stuff like this, when you have as many wires as this, sometimes just the blue, red and green wires aren't enough to actually distinguish what each wire is going to and what is what. So if you head over to Tiperformance, you can get yourself some automotive tie cab wiring where they have all kinds of wires with strikers as well, which makes life so much easier when it comes to wiring up. So that's where we got all our stuff from. Well, I think I'm pretty much spent for the day. I've sort of got my head wrapped around this wiring loom. You never realise how big of a job it is until you start getting stuck into it. So it's taken me a couple of hours just to get this pin repinned here to a Deutsch connector. The reason being is just because I need to sort of figure out what all these wires do and where they're going to go and everything. So there's still plenty more to figure out in this loom. I've got my injector wires here, so these are what trigger the injector. All these here are sensors, so these are like your crank angle sensor, your coolant temperature, air temperature sensor, all that's going to run through this. So that'll plug into the loom there, injectors, and then this will be your coil packs. So I'm getting there, I've narrowed most of it down, it's just a matter of now actually making it all work and writing it down as I go, so I know that when I get to that side of the loom, I just need to go off my wiring diagram. As long as I got my wiring diagram written down correctly, it should be pretty straightforward, but you know, it never works like that. But my head's spinning. I think it's time to call it a day. Nathan's feeling much the same. We've achieved a lot today and very little at the same time. So we're going to pack it up, move it all into the side and come back to this another day when we're a little more bright-eyed and energetic. Fun times. Alright, well it is a couple of days later and
Yes,
we've spent the whole day working in this car. We've filmed none of it because we've just been trying to smash stuff out, and filming does take a lot of time up when it comes to just fixing all these little problems. But where are we at, Nathan? What have you done today?
All right, so we got a Crossmember, we've sourced a Crossmember, so all goods in that department.
So this Crossmember is for the transmission. As earlier in the episode we spoke about, we realised
It doesn't fit.
wasn't going to fit. Turns out we needed a Crossmember. We didn't know that when we were doing this conversion or when we ordered all the parts, so we've got one now. So that should fix the transmission problem. So we're going to throw that in the next couple of days, get that sorted. What else have you done?
So the main battery cable is ran through the car and in the boot. I've just sat the battery where it's going to go because mounting it is not something that's just 4 bolts. I can do that on a night. Also ran,
That's always scary.
these door handles suck. We've also ran wiring through the floor to go to our trans fan and our trans temp. So no wiring. I was pretty strict with no wiring under this car. I didn't want conduit zip tied to everywhere on the floor. Michael agreed with me. So we're running everything through the car. It's going to be like a bloody nervous system. So that's all ran. I've just been fiddling with things. I did get a sway bar, front sway bar in the car. That clears the sump and everything.
You put the headlights back in because we started running the wiring.
They're not in permanently, but I've just plugged them in for Michael so he can figure out his wiring. Yeah, there's still heaps to do.
Yeah.
We do need to, unfortunately, modify where the engine sits because I think everyone has done their R&D with an alloy sump and no one has done it with a tin sump. So it's a series of events to get the transmission and engine sitting correctly. We need to lift the engine with the stand thingy, and then we need to put the transmission on, bolt the transmission in with the crossmember, put the crossmember in, move the engine 10 mil up, 10 mil forward, and then make everything work. So that's a day on its own, but Michael is now nutting out the wiring and he can explain.
Welcome to my cave. Welcome to my existence for the next 3 weeks. I spent pretty much the entire day just working through the wiring. I have not got very far physically, but on paper I've gotten pretty far. So I've been working on creating a wiring diagram or a pinout for all the connections in the car. The reason why I'm doing this is because this is a completely standalone system. I need to sort of rearrange a few things as it was done in the family, so it's just taking a lot of forethought and a lot of planning ahead rather than just throwing a bunch of wires at it and then having a million connectors. We want to have this thing so it's pretty modular so it can go in and out really easy. The other thing as well too is I'm also wiring up the transmission. The transmission used to run through the original ECU, albeit it ran through Shift Kits Australia annual controller. It still ran through the ECU. Now I'm pulling it out of that. I need to rewire that and rejig that and figure out how that works. So I'm currently at that stage. The wiring loom for the engine is done. I've put that in. It's just, I'm really slowly getting there, but a lot of the work of the hard work has been done today now. A lot of these pins aren't even actually physically created yet, but now when I go to create them, I just really quickly pin them out because I've got my diagram basically here on the computer. So I'm working my way through that. It takes a lot of time, but it's worth it in the end. And when it comes to fault finding in the future, it should be really easy because I can just come straight to here and go, where did I stuff it up? But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is as far as we're going to get with this episode. It is an absolute slog at this point because we are very quickly running out of days and weeks before DC approaches, and we have a lot to do. So we're going to smash this out and just keep on trucking, I guess, because there's still so much to be done. But I'm going to work late tonight and see if I can get as much of this wiring loom done and continue on from there basically. So until we see you in the next episode, I don't know, we'll have slept by then. I don't know, who knows? I don't think we will. Sleep is not the priority at the moment, it's just getting stuff done. So consider liking, subscribing, all the usual. Head on over to the website if you want to support the channel even further. And other than that, I'm going to keep wiring, so we'll see you in the next episode.
What do you mean? Get back there. What are you doing?
Oh yeah, I need to be back out.
It's your turn to do a late night.
Alright, we're taking a quick break for a second here because apparently I have a package that I need to open. So I've been sent this by someone from Simon Eilert from Perth. Alright. So I've got a note that says, to avoid the surprise, Marcus should open these packages before reading this letter. Gemini project. Could be a while before we get back to the Gemini. So we're opening it today because I'm curious. I need a knife. You got a knife?
No.
Simon should really have a knife.
You took me knife. Simon, is that an I? Eilert. Eilert?
Oh, he's put the marks there so you know where to grab the tape from.
Oh, that's smart.
That's a good idea. Gemini front pad shims. Okay. That's good. Probably need them because I don't reckon we put any in. Rare gem inside. Don't tell me this is what I think it is.
What is it?
It's a fuel flat bracket. The same fuel flat bracket that I ordered from the UK and paid a fortune to get. Gemini wagon fuel flap hinge, rare as shit. Try to find someone to make a mold and start selling them. I had to order one all the way from the UK to get one because it came off like an Opal or something like that, just to be able to get one. Now I have two. Thank you, Simon. That's very appreciated because I definitely need that because it's annoying me not having the fuel flap. I love this tape.
It looks like a VT with no fuel cap.
Just standard
Just
VT
standard.
things. Oh! Self-explanatory.
Oh.
Gasket and all. Good on him. What a legend. Because my one was rooted.
It's still leaking.
Is it? Yeah,
Yeah.
of course it is. These are the pins for the brake pads. Remember the pins that we had to get replaced? Did we put these back in? Has he watched this episode or watched the build and gone, they didn't put them in? Is that where this has come from? Well, thank you, Simon. Simon from Nutted Out Mechanical Repairs over in Perth. Thank you very much. Hi, fellas. Firstly, love your channel. Just thought I'd send Michael a few gifts that might be handy in the Gemini project. Sorry, Nathan, I don't have any XE parts because XE is a piece of shit.
He didn't say that.
I added that bit. Well, thank you very much, Simon. That is awesome. And what a laugh. That's grouse. I can't believe now I have 2 of these. You know how hard this was to find?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Makes sense?
Yep. The Tesla power goes in there. The rockets gets launched from there.
Easy.
Easy.
Just plug in the red, yeah, like you said. It'll only take you a day. 1 night of wiring.
Pull it.
God, that's scary. Buy an XE. You can stand up in it.
That's it.
Hello, it's me you're looking for. I can see my wiring loom.
Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. I don't want to scratch the doors, but you get it.
You just cut the whole thing out, didn't you?
Oh, I cut the square out. So your feet are going to be getting really hot. Yeah, you got your heated seats and that in your modern cars.
We've got heated floors, bitch.
He's lost it. Alright, now I'm over wiring.
You're kidding, right? It's been 5 minutes.
I know, I've only just begun. I've only just begun.